Good morning. Welcome to our December 3rd, 2024 Blue Earth County Commissioners meeting. Those that are able, please stand and join us in the pledge to the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item number 2 on the agenda is the agenda review. Mr. Meyer, please.
Mr. Chair, there are no changes to the agenda today.
Move approval?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there a discussion? Are we ready to vote? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. Motion carried. The agenda is approved as printed. Item number 3, tab number 1, Judicial Ditch 33, permit under protest. Greg, would you come forward and introduce the...
Okay. Today's subject is a public waters permit under protest. The purpose, JD 33 resides in sections 22, 23, 26, and 27 of McPherson Township. JD 33 is a public drainage system established in 1918 with an approximate watershed of 896 acres. The Drainage Authority received a petition for improvement to Judicial Ditch 33 on October 6, 2021. As part of the petition process, the engineer drainage staff coordinated with the Minnesota Department of Natural Resources through the formal meeting process and informally with additional meetings. The project engineer's analysis of the project indicates that there's no change or diminish to the course, current, or the cross-section of the public water as a result of the proposed improvement project. And to the extent there may be a change or diminish, the project should be exempt from permitting as it does not significantly affect public waters. Therefore, the project engineer, drainage staff, and Drainage Authority's attorney believe that the evidence shows that the public waters work permit is not required. The Drainage Authority's attorney has prepared the attached letter of protest to be added to the public waters work permit application as a supplemental letter of protest. We are asking the board to approve the letter of protest and direct Blue Earth County drainage staff with assistance of legal counsel to send the letter to the DNR simultaneous with the project engineer's filing of the public waters work permit for Blue Earth County Judicial Ditch 33. And with that, I'll let Hannah take over.
Okay. Hannah, please identify yourself for the record. Welcome. Good morning.
Yes. Hannah Schackrell Jansen with Rinke Noonan. So today, as Craig said, the board is being asked to approve the letter that will be sent to the DNR if approved. I think first it will be helpful for the board to hear from ISG to walk through kind of the engineering that is included in the letter. As DNR filed their final advisory report, which is required under 103E, and as part of that final advisory report, DNR said that a public waters work permit would be required for the JD 33 improvement project. ISG has prepared a rebuttal to that final advisory report to discuss the points raised by the DNR, which is appended to the letter. And so I think first it'd just be helpful for the board to hear from ISG, and then I can come back and kind of walk through what that process of sending the letter and answer any questions if the board may have them, if that works.
Okay, sounds like a plan. I'll hear from the engineers, please.
All right, Chuck Brando with ISG.
Jacob Mueller with ISG.
So we'll keep this brief, but we've been working on this project, I believe, for about 5 years with landowners. Back in 2022, the preliminary engineer's report was filed. We had looked at different options. After that hearing, we had worked with the landowner at the outlet, and we're proposing to add a wetland storage area at the outlet of the system to kind of account for some of the input that we received to try to reduce peak flows and reduce volumes on the system. We met with DNR staff after that 2 times in 2023. And then if you recall, there was a petition for an EAW on this project. That put the project on hold for 6 to 8 months. After that was dismissed, we reopened the project and we met with the DNR 3 times to go over modeling in 2024. So we feel that we've gone over this. We've kind of showed how this thing works. The project itself is just an improvement to the outlet of this system, which is in disrepair. It blows out every year. Flow comes out of the ground, flows over land. So I think we've got a good solution here where we're reducing peak flows. We're adding a wetland. We have a landowner that signed an easement for a wetland already. There's enough benefits to do that without grant funding, though we may still look for some. So we feel we have a very good project that will protect the drainage system and not cause any significant harm downstream. Jacob, did you want to add anything about the specific numbers?
Yeah, so to boil it down a little bit about the DNR's concern, it kind of be reduced to a singular point. The DNR is concerned that this increase the drainage coefficient and this small improvement to the outlet is going to result in alterations to course current cross-section of the outlet being the Lasua River. Through our discussions of modeling with the DNR, we've shown our calculations on reductions to velocity and shear stress, our reductions to peak flow rate entering the Lasua River via tile-driven flow and overland flow. And then finally, in this newest rebuttal letter, we talk about the impacts of slight volume increases and how that would impact the course and current of the Lasua River. The way that was performed is looking at the downstream Lasua River gauge in St. Clair. We took specified model events, compared them to actual storm events and the stage and flow rate within the river, and then calculated what the actual impact would be of this improvement. What we found was the physical change in flow rate and stage of the river would be so small it would not even register on the Lasua River gauge in St. Clair. So with that, it would not result in a measurable change to the course current cross-section of the river.
Really, in summary, this isn't a big project, but we've gone kind of above and beyond to show that it does not have a significant effect. And we're proposing to add a wetland and storage feature to the project, which I think is consistent with what Blue Earth County has done in the past. And I think will give, we have a landowner that is begging us to put this thing in. So we don't get that very often. So I think it's a good project, but we've had some hurdles here that we need to jump through. So that's all we have.
Clarifying questions at this time? I guess I would have one. You work with, we're probably not your only client, and this isn't our only ditch in this county, but are we having these concerns in other places of the state or other counties, or are we kind of an outlier on this?
No, you're not an outlier. There are other concerns throughout other portions of the state. I've actually talked to other engineers in the state that have had some of these issues. You have some neighboring counties right now that have had EAW requests and have some permit requests that we are stating the same information that it's our opinion that a permit is not necessary. So there'll be some hearings in some neighboring counties in the next month that are addressing the same issue. Whatwan County being one of them, just if you want to talk to those
So
folks.
will this help that process, or how do we make that better?
That's a good question. I don't know if it's going to make it better, but I think this will help the process in the fact that, you're essentially backing up your experts with the facts. The facts say we don't need a permit, that we're doing everything we should be doing by law. We think we're going above and beyond. And the other projects that we're looking at are doing similar things with storage, wetlands, and those type of projects. So I think it would help throughout southern Minnesota at least. So.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Mr. Chair, I don't have a question, but I have a comment. And to me, it sounds like we're doing everything they want us to do on this, and now it still ain't enough. So I'm a little frustrated by that, because we do work really hard here in Blue Earth County, I think, to get retention, deeper ditches. We do all kinds of things to try to slow down the water and retain water. And it's just kind of frustrating that we are kind of just going through this motion. And again, this is a very small ditch, so this gets very expensive for the landowners. But appreciate all your work on it, and I hope we can get some resolution to it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hannah, please.
Okay. So, board, you were being asked to approve the letter that I believe was included in your board packet. Yep, up there. And what that letter, the purpose of the letter is to respond to DNR's assertion that a public waters work permit is required for the JD 33 improvement project. We're in a little bit of a pickle with how to deal with DNR's assertion, and we do address that in the letter because on one hand, we believe, and Rinky Noonan has done the research and it worked with ISG, just consulted with Blue Earth County drainage staff on this, and there's not evidence being presented by the DNR to support their assertion. But the risk is if we went forward with this project through the final hearing under 103E, had a contractor in place, started doing the work, DNR could then issue a cease and desist letter to Blue Earth County and the contractor, and that is going to get very expensive very quickly, as well as running into issues just having a contractor in place and not being able to actually do that work. And so if we went forward without a permit, we have risks there. If we apply for a permit without this sort of letter, DNR could come back and say, yep, and we will give you have to have this permit, and you have to have XYZ conditions met that either will could modify the project to where it is not feasible anymore, or it could make it just really expensive, or the project could then potentially be removed down the road if DNR says, actually, based on all this data we required you to collect, it's not good for the environment, you have to remove it. And so Blue Earth County is stuck in the middle of, do you apply for a permit or do you not? Because neither option is the safe option for the landowners or for the county. So what this letter does is that it says to DNR that it is a formal protest and objection to the requirement of a public waters work permit, and clearly states that Blue Earth County is preserving the right to appeal any decision by the DNR about this public waters permit for JD 33, and it preserves the right to raise the issue of jurisdiction, which basically is saying, DNR, you actually don't have jurisdiction to require a permit for this project. And so that's the purpose of the letter, is to get a formal decision from DNR about whether a public waters permit is needed and what those conditions, if any, are going to be, so that we have a definitive decision that we're looking at, and that we can make an informed decision about how to respond to, or because it could be the DNR just issues the permit, there's no conditions, then we move forward with the project. But this letter just preserves the rights of Blue Earth County to make the fight with DNR if it's necessary. So that would be the purpose of the letter. The timing of it is, again, tricky because currently there's not a decision that DNR has formally made. And so what we would do is have Mr. Meyer send this letter immediately after ISG submits the application for the public waters permit, and that is detailed in the letter of timing wise. And so The letter would be sent simultaneous with the application, which then gives DNR all of this extra information that it doesn't previously have, including ISG's response that they just discussed with this board. And so with that, my recommendation for a motion would be to approve the letter protesting DNR's requirement of a public waters work permit and direct Blue Earth County staff with assistance of legal counsel to send the letter to DNR simultaneous with the engineer filing the public waters work permit for Blue Earth County Judicial Ditch 33.
Thank you. Clarifying questions from board members or legal counsel?
Nope, I had some questions about the timing, but she answered them already.
Yeah, I had questions about what would happen with the permit. You answered all the questions before I came up with them. Thank you very much.
Yep.
All right, then at this time, it'd be appropriate for a motion to approve the letter of protest, and will direct Blue Earth County staff with assistance of legal counsel to send the letter to the DNR simultaneously when the project engineer files for the public waters permit for JD 33.
So moved.
We have a motion.
Second.
And multiple seconds. Discussion.
Good work on everybody's part. Thank you.
Are we ready to vote? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The motion carried. We will approve the letter of protest and direct staff to send that letter at the same time of the filing. All right, does that conclude this issue, Craig?
Yes.
All right, let's
Thank
go then to item number 4, tab 2.
Okay. The next is single and multi-year special drainage system levy recommendations. The following attachments are the recommended single-year and multi-year special drainage system levies for payable 2025 and beyond. Attachment A lists the single-year levies for Blue Earth County drainage systems, including public drainage assessment that applies to all systems. Attachment B lists the multi-year levies for Blue Earth County drainage systems, including assessments for the principal amount payable on 25 on drainage ditch bonds issued in previous years. New internal financing processes may be used on the newly levied multi-year levies, whereas they may be internally financed for all years or for the first year only before being converted to a bond. Financing method will be determined based on which option produces the most beneficial terms for the property owners. Recommended action, approval of the attached resolution approving the collection of special drainage system levies in 2025 as identified on the attachments.
Okay, you've heard the recommendation.
I'll move approval.
We have a motion
Second.
and a second. Discussion.
Mr. Chair, I don't have any questions, just would like to thank Craig and the staff, Bob Meyer and Commissioner Pat, myself, all sit down with Ryan Hinneker for several hours and go through these one by one and determine what we have for needs, and our goal is to try to get all of them out of the negative balances, which is very challenging, but we do work very hard at it. So thank you for all your efforts.
And I certainly agree with that and appreciate all staff that does that. Remind me again, I think I know, but I know there's somebody probably watching this on YouTube that is asking the question, what is the difference between a JD and a JTD? A judicial ditch and a joint county?
Joint county ditches well, little history, the JD ditches were established in the court systems. It used to be all ditches that actually were within 2 different counties were established in a judicial system. There are also ditches that are strictly within a county's borders that are also established in a judicial system. So that's with a JD. At one point, the courts got out of the ditch business and the laws were changed to allow joint county ditches. So joint county ditches are those ditches that were established after the law changes allowing for joint county boards for drainage authorities.
So I could have a JD entirely in Blue Earth County, and it's a JD because a judge did it at some point
Yes,
versus the Drainage Authority.
yes.
Other questions? Are we ready to vote? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. Motion passes. The resolution approving the drainage system levies as identified in attachments are approved. Thank you.
Thank you, Craig.
Thanks, Craig.
Item number 5, tab 3, Public Works. Good morning, Ms.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Morning, Ryan.
Mr. Chair, I think we actually wanted Carrie to come up first, so make Ryan.
Sorry, Ryan.
It is Public Works, but it is a fiber.
All right, so we're item number 5, 3, is Public Works Fiber Bid Award. So IT trumps snowplows this morning. Good morning.
Good morning, Carrie.
Good
My
morning.
apologies.
That's okay, that's okay. Good morning, Commissioners, Mr. Chair. So I'm bringing forward another RFP that we went out for a second time because we didn't get very many bids and they weren't favorable the first time. So we are working with Finley again to reestablish this RFP. This is the fiber line that is going to go down County Road 8 and Stadium Road, and then follows County Road 8 south for 2.45 miles, and then west on County Road 90 for 1 mile to the future Public Works building. They provided us with an opinion of cost, which estimated at $215,505.12. The bids were opened on October 11th, 2024, and there were 5 bids received. 1 was rejected automatically due to lack of having a bond or check. Comlink Solutions came in at $248,906.92, which was the lowest bid for the project. It is my recommendation to accept the bid for the Comlink RFP for that amount of $248,906.92.
Okay, thank you.
I would move to approve.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion?
Do we know the reason for the difference? I mean, the 215 to 248, I mean, I know there's sometimes the construction and, sometimes we don't quite know what they're going to be, that's a guess on our part to start with, but it seems like quite a bit.
It was quite a bit of difference. We feel that Finley may have underestimated that project for us, so I think that seeing where all the other bids came in, that's a more realistic number with where Comlink came in.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Great. Other discussion? Are we ready to vote? We have a motion and a second, correct?
Yep.
We're ready to vote? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. Motion carried, the bid is approved. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Carrie.
Item number 6, Property and Environmental Resources. Mr. Considine and Mr. Mandeville.
Good morning.
Morning.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a couple of non-planning items here this morning for the board's consideration. First item would relate to the 2025 update to planning and zoning fees. As the board is aware, Property and Environmental Resources Department maintains fee schedules for various services provided directly to customers. These fees either cover the cost of providing those services or at least subsidizes the costs when it's determined those costs should not be fully borne by grant dollars or general fund dollars. The Property and Environmental Resources Department reviews these fees on a regular basis to ensure the fees commiserate to the service being provided and the cost to the county. And so this year, the following changes are proposed. First off, we are doing a little clarification on the administrative land divisions. Previously, it was set up so that administrative land division, so a land division that's not a plat, would cost $350. With a recent ordinance update, we were allowing some properties to be split if they did not meet the buildable standards with a deed restriction. And so what we have found is that in some of these cases, there might be multiple deed restrictions needed on properties depending on how the property is being divvied up. And our current fee structure only allows for $400 for an administrative land division with a deed restriction. And so that's not necessarily covering all the recording costs, as staff is recording that when it is provided by the applicant. And so we're simply clarifying that administrative land division would stay at $350, and then there would be a $50 charge to cover the recording fees for each deed restriction. The other items are a little bit more cosmetic. We are clarifying some thresholds in terms of fees associated with wetland work. Previously, the thresholds for the fees were at 4.99. We're rounding it to 5 for easier conversation with the public. And then we're also adding a specific fee for a wetland exemption proposal except wildlife habitat, and that's being added at a reduced rate of $200. The last item that I want to call the board's attention to would relate to the cannabis business registration fees. The parameters for those fees are dictated by Minnesota Statute Chapter 342, and so we are including those registration fees for retail cannabis businesses in here so that we have those established, that when proposals come in, probably mid-2025 at the earliest, depending on how the state progresses with their timeline for rulemaking. And also their lottery process is currently on pause at the moment. We will have our fees established in case any proposals come forward for retail cannabis businesses. And so the requested action is the board approve the fee changes as described in the memorandum. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, you've heard the recommendation.
Move approval.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Discussion?
That's good.
Yeah, I like when we review them every year.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Thank you.
All right, are we ready to vote? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. Motion carried. The fee schedule is approved.
Second item this morning is reappointments for the Planning Commission and the Board of Adjustment. Planning Commission Board of Adjustment have the 2 vacancies, and both the current members are seeking reappointment. Mr. Joe Smentek, located in District 1, has served on the Planning Commission since January of 2015, and Mr. William Anderson, located in District 4, has served on the Planning Commission since August of 2008. They've served on both boards since that time frame. Both have expressed a desire to continue to serve on the Planning Commission and Board of Adjustment, and if the board were to reappoint them, their terms would be from January 1st of 2025 through December 31st of 2027. So staff requests the board reappoint those members as outlined in the memorandum. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, you've heard the recommendation.
I'll
What's your
move approval.
wishes?
Second?
Have a motion and a second. Discussion.
No discussion, Mr. Chair, or just a comment. Joe and Bill both do a really good job. They're there every month and do a good job at the meeting, do their research, so I appreciate their efforts.
Anything else? I would just ask, so we don't give all the favoritism to the ditches in the county. For somebody that's watching, would briefly explain in a couple of sentences the difference between the Planning Commission and the Board of Adjustment, those listening.
Absolutely. So the Board of Adjustment is the decision-making entity, while the Planning Commission provides a recommendation to the county board. Items that go before the Board of Adjustment would be variances. Someone that is looking for relief from the exact interpretation of standards within the ordinance. Planning Commission deals with items such as plats and conditional use permits, those types of things that are allowed in certain zoning districts, but they need extra review and approval.
Thank you. Any
Good
other
summary.
questions? Are we ready to vote? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. Motion carried. Those appointments are approved.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chair. Mark Manderfeld, Deputy Director, Property and Environmental Resources. Similar to John's recap of the Property and Environmental Resources fee schedule, we've done similar work with the landfill. We have done that each of the last couple of years since the takeover. We've identified a few areas of change that would help us continue our operations. One of them is construction and demo material. The proposed change is changing that from $25 a yard to $35 a yard. The rationale behind that change is we see a lot of construction demolition debris coming to our landfill, and that's best suited at Pilgrim's landfill, at least generally located in our area, other construction and demo landfills as well. And they are increasing their costs, and so we'd like to react with that to make sure that we're above them in terms of the cost for those materials, as well as some upcoming legislative changes for construction and demolition debris landfills that will require them to be lined in the future. So they're starting to increase prices due to those future regulations coming up. The next change that we have proposed is to commercial municipal solid waste, or MSW, which is our primary use at the MSW landfill that we have. We're proposing a change from $46 to $50 a ton. And additionally, we're proposing a change of $45 per ton to $50 a ton for industrial waste that we accept. This generally has to do with, of course, increasing operational costs, and most of that has to do with the way we need to mitigate for PFAS in our leachate system. So we currently land apply some of our leachate, and then we bring in the remainder to the wastewater treatment plant. We have received a letter, and I believe we've discussed this at a work session, that we're going to have to offer some type of pre-treatment or treatment for our leachate, and so we're trying to get ahead of those costs with this increase. And then lastly, we have a credit application fee. Jason out at the landfill and our director, Michael Stahlberger, have worked diligently to craft and finalize a landfill credit policy that is currently being reviewed by MCIT. And as part of that policy, we'd like to implement a review fee of $200 for new credit applications there. So thank you, Mr. Chair.
That would be new, only those currently would not be required to pay that?
Initially, they would all have to go through that
Okay.
credit policy, yep.
So it's for everyone?
Correct.
Okay, and we can do these fees all as one.
I would move to approve.
Second?
Have a motion and a second, discussion? Are we ready to vote? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. Motion carried, the fees are approved for the upcoming year. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thanks. Have a good day, guys.
Ryan, should we try it again? Sorry about that.
Sure.
Item number 7, tab number 7, Public Works. Mr. Telges.
Good morning again, Commissioners. Relatively brief agenda today, just one action item for consideration, and that is adjustment of campground fees for 2025. Staff has a list of comparable campgrounds that we use, both public and private, with similar levels of amenities. They reviewed the current rates, and if there was any upcoming rate changes available, brought those in. We provided 3 different fee structures to the Park Advisory Committee at the most recent meeting, and the current rates are listed in the board packet for your information, as well as the suggested fee increases. Camping fee going up about $5 per night to match more so 2024 rates that we've been seeing. Senior camping fee also up $5, as well as the extra adult tent fee and the kid tent fee up $2 per night. Below there is also a history of the camping night usage, 2022 through 2024. And you can see we had reduced camping revenue due to the Rapidan Dam campground being closed for this 2024 season. So with that, I would propose raising the campground user or camping fees to the suggested increases included in the packet.
I would move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second, discussion?
I'm on the park board, and all this was discussed well with them, and they all gave a unanimous vote for these. I think everybody understands for us to keep our parks in good shape, and that we have to, you know, not over cost the people using it, but have a reasonable cost, and have it so that we're not the low end of the scale. So this is all a good increase for everybody involved.
All right, other discussion? Thank you for that input. It's always good to know we've got advisory committees that are doing their job, and I'm certainly willing to take their recommendation. We're ready to vote? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. Motion carried. The campground fees are approved.
Thank you. Just some brief project updates. County State Highway 5 from Riverfront Drive to Summit Avenue. This is 3rd Avenue in Mankato. We had the project open house meeting about 2 weeks ago, well attended. We'd also been meeting with some of the more high impact ADM and other trucking operations ahead of that project, so we're coordinating ingress and egress of that project. We don't have a definitive plan developed yet for construction staging, but we're working with Bolden Mink, the project designer, on that. Additionally, the project is going to require full replacement of all city utilities. The city has wisely chosen to conduct a sanitary sewer kind of service area study for that region. There were discussions initially of putting in a very deep, very large sanitary sewer. What we found out there is there's a significant amount of bedrock, so that would have been incredibly expensive and time consuming. So they're looking at studying that sewer district a little bit better to make a better determination on the true need out there. So whatever gets incorporated into that will come into our project plan set and be incorporated as part of the project construction. So that project's moving forward. Again, that's not a 25 project, that's a 2026 project, so we've got some time yet. County State Highways 15 and 28 in St. Clair are moving forward. We did recently meet with the city of St. Clair and review the proposed design, nothing significant with respect to alignment changes other than at the very east end of the city where CSAH 15, there's a Y intersection. We're looking at cleaning up that corner and bringing things in on tangent with, I think it's County Road 178 that goes to the east. Just trying to make that a better, safer intersection. So we're exploring some opportunities there. We also met with the city to discuss the widths of the streets. And so for the segment where the project starts at the intersection of CSAH 28 where it comes in and at the T, so it'd be at the northeast corner of the school, and then goes to the east through town, and then also picks up a block of CSAH 28 as it goes north towards the bridge out towards Minnesota Elevator. The existing street widths are really wide. The city wants to have some more, I think some more snow storage and sidewalk throughout the entire project where necessary. And to get that to fit, we're looking at putting in a 44-foot wide road in the 2-block segment from the intersection at the school to the east, so in front of the bar and the post office, not the post office, but some of the other businesses in town right there, the more of the downtown area, so that we can facilitate parking, similar to what we did in the city of Vernon Center with the 44-foot street. Then the rest of it, we would go to a 40-foot where it's more residential use along those streets. Bolden Mink was going to be looking at truck turning movements and making sure if we need to paint off curbs so that there's not parking right on the corner, so that trucks coming in and out of town can make those and make sure that the turning movements work. So that's the update on St. Clair. We're working on 10 from the West County line to 20, beginning right-of-way negotiations. That project's going to have a lot of landowners for Jack and Ryan to meet with, but we are set up with the bridge funding and project plans are approved, so we're moving forward with that. So now it's just a matter of hopefully the landowners out there are willing to work with us on a much-needed project. CSAH 40 slope repair.
Can I
Yes.
interrupt you on that? And I would just add, I know we had some landowner meetings on ditch systems in the last couple of weeks, needing to work with the drainage staff and things like that as we are looking at some possible improvements on there and being able to incorporate those in as we do the construction. So I know the landowner's been told, they're aware of this and know that they're not under the gun, but there is some timelines. If there is a petition, it's a whole lot easier. At least that's been our experience, in my opinion, on one of our last projects, is being able to do those as we're reconstructing the road versus having to bore them underneath it.
Correct.
Saves a lot of landowner costs to do that. So I know there's 2, if not 3, crossings.
Yeah, I'm not 100%. I'll check with staff and see if those made it into that project plan set, if we were aware of it or not. If not, you said this is a county ditch project?
Yes.
Okay.
I want to say 59, but don't hold my head to it.
Let's have staff take a look at that.
Thank you.
Yes. County State Highway 40 southwest of Amboy, we have that slope failure where the culvert is washed out. We do have $320,000 of federal funding allocated for next year. Eric just submitted the project memorandum to the state of Minnesota, which was necessary for submittal just to keep the federal funding moving forward. That includes kind of some documentation of environmental constraints and other things. We're working on just finalizing those plans and keeping that project moving forward. Not a huge project, but good one where we were able to utilize some federal funds from outside of Blue Earth County to make that necessary repair. And then we've also got CSAH 10 from Vernon Center to a mile east, including bridge replacement. That project's chugging along. Really not really a lot of news on it. I think we talked about the alignment previously. So Widseth is the designer on that, still moving forward. And I would anticipate likely this spring we'll have an open house meeting on it with a handful of landowners that are there. There really aren't very many landowners. We could almost just have individual meetings in lieu, but it's nice to offer it publicly if necessary also. And then I think we talked last month about the 2025 bridge projects. We've got quite a few that are funded and ready to go. We'll be advertising and posting those here to get good bid prices soon. I would anticipate we'll also be bidding Victory Drive sooner than later. Try to get out ahead of the rest of the construction industry and get good prices on that for that last stretch from Main Street to Fair Street.
Gotta make sure that goes really fast.
I said May till November. Is that okay?
Shorter.
I'll get you a special pass. All right. Maintenance crews have been obviously transitioning to winter projects. They were working on shouldering gravel shoulders along our paved roads, touching up touching up gravel roads and blading them as we were getting some moisture finally. So trying to get those in good condition before winter freeze up. And now that the snow has fallen and the roads are getting slick, we're on to our winter maintenance operations for snow and ice control. I did include a Rapidan Dam update. I think this one was only really 4 full pages, so I'm cutting it down. Things have been a little bit slower with respect to the dam. I wouldn't call it slow, but a lot of items at this point in time are in FEMA's court to respond to us. So I'll run through this, try to keep it high level. On the CSAH 9 bridge, we were responding to bidder inquiries and posting the responses publicly for the engineering services proposal that had been posted. Again, that's a qualification-based proposal. We did receive those on this past Friday. We're in the process of reviewing those right now. It does require DBE clearance, so that disadvantaged business enterprise clearance of the 10% target, clearance through MnDOT, as well as a post-award audit. So once we select a consultant, we'll ask them for their pricing and their DBE information. We'll have to send it off to MnDOT for their blessing to award the contract. So every step requires an approval. A lot of correspondence between the county, Stonebrook, and Hosier Worldwide and MnDOT State Aid regarding structural engineering consultant firms proposed by Hosier. A lot of vetting with respect to the firms and how they want to proceed with a qualified bridge engineer for the demolition project. They've also since proposed or provided their demolition site safety plan And it's just kind of, we've met with them and established how we're going to operate that over the course of the winter so that we can ensure we're doing snow and ice control for the residents that live out there. They have provided kind of a draft plan, does include the use of some charges for dismantling some of the structural components of the bridge. We're working through some safety and monitoring precautions and concerns that were addressed between the county and our structural engineer. So not a lot to dispose because the plan is not approved yet, nor is it certain that that's the route that it's going to go. With respect to the dam, on October 30th, I reached out to Louise Malden from the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service to discuss funding alternatives. And this, I believe I was pointed in this direction from the Army Corps of Engineers, inquiring about some fish passage funds that they may have available. She said that those funds are effectively, they've been expended, and even if there were funding available, there's like $15 million nationwide in a competitive application pot, and we wouldn't be able to use it anyway because we still have the FERC license. So that's a limitation that they can't apply those funds to FERC licensed dams. Didn't seem like a really viable option at that point, but she did offer to join our bi-weekly license surrender calls on behalf of the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, which she has been attending, so good to get them on the call for the regulatory aspects. On November 1st, we submitted the list of damages for the dam and adjacent county park to FEMA to meet the submittal deadline. On the 4th, we submitted a letter to FEMA formally requesting verification of immediate threat for funding eligibility for the interim stabilization efforts at the severely eroded west bank of the dam. This letter explained why filling the eroded area is the most viable solution, included site photos, and then the September 20th Barr engineering memorandum. And if you recall, that memorandum had different alternatives, one putting basically spur dikes in at the river line to dissipate the energy, filling or cutting the slope back. We proposed filling the slope. And maybe I'll just kind of jump around a little bit. We heard back from FEMA on November, oh, I'm sorry, I gotta find it here. I just keep going and we'll get to it. How's that? Sorry.
It's item K, I think.
Okay, thank you. It was on the next page, that's why. But just to close the loop on that, on November 18th, we received FEMA's response to our November 4th request for verification of that funding eligibility. They stated that they only provide PA funding for the least costly option to alleviate the threat. Since the county had already installed fencing, they believe that the immediate threat to the public safety has been addressed. I subsequently submitted a request for FEMA to issue a formal determination memorandum regarding this denial for the county's documentation that was submitted on November 21st. So frustrating, maybe not fully surprising, but frustrating. I will jump back on November 4th. Myself and county administration, and we had a call with representatives from Senator Smith and Senator Klobuchar's offices, both locally and Washington, D.C. offices, and discussed the current dam situation, our progress with FEMA and the FERC. We discussed the best path forward, whether using the FEMA process or seeking a direct appropriation. The staff had a later meeting that day with the FERC, FEMA, and Corps to further discuss the situation. On the 4th, we also held a bi-weekly meeting with FEMA. We talked about their work on the DDD damage description and dimensions and what additional information the county needs to provide to FEMA for them to complete those calculations of damages, at least for quantification of those damages so that they could start building out a cost estimate. FEMA is also going to be doing just some internal jockeying around of some of the items so that it creates flexibility for the county. On the 4th, we also had our bi-weekly call with the FERC, FEMA, and Corps regarding license surrender. Their Corps will need Section 404 as part of the NEPA documents. Again, Louise joined the call on behalf of the Fish and Wildlife Service. Carbon footprint was discussed. We discussed burying the concrete rubble from the dam in the back slope or somewhere as kind of structural backfill. Later, we learned that that's not an allowable practice because of pH impacts and concerns about rebar sticking out. So it's unfortunate. You know, it sounds like all of that rubble will have to be hauled off, and we'll have to haul other rock in to stabilize those slopes and other things. On the 7th, we met with a consultant interested in the bridge and dam proposals. We've had several of them reaching out to us, so we had about an hour meeting to kind of just discuss the project and what we're looking for. On the 12th, FEMA provided a review email of our draft request for proposals, and as good of lawyer speak as possible. As a reminder, any analysis provided is not to be interpreted as legal advice. I won't read the whole thing, but basically they said it looked okay, but it's not a legal blessing to, it's not saying it's perfect and that we still can't be missing something. I'll let you read all of the fine print, but I did put what they stated in their letter. On the 13th, we sent the final request for proposals for engineering services to 6 firms, identified, including some firms identified in the FEMA's socioeconomic contracting requirements process, where we identified ones that claim to have experience in dams or other matters. Dams are highly specialized engineering. It's not something that everybody does. Mm-hmm. So we did look statewide and sent to some of those firms. I don't anticipate that they'll provide a proposal because this is such a mega project and they were pretty small, I think mom and pop kind of shops. It's been advertised in the Free Press and the County Connex website for digital downloading. Proposals are due December 11th. I'm hoping to bring that to the board for consideration in January of 25. I think with the turnaround to get it in the board packet, we wouldn't be able to get it in for the 17th due to, you know, these proposals are 20 to 40 pages each, and it takes some significant time. I spent most of the day yesterday. I made it through 1.5 of them, just trying to make sure I'm giving them my due diligence. So pretty time consuming to review those. On the 18th, we held again a subsequent bi-weekly meeting with FEMA. We discussed their response to the embankment repair letter, survey of the scour area, and the quantification for their DDD estimate again. Really, again, as I said, a lot of items are reliant on FEMA to respond and their action. Wayne Lamoureux with HSCM discussed the 2019 disaster, the DR 4442 for the dam, where we had funds allocated. Those funds will be deobligated, and they're unsure of the permanent repair inclusion in the 2024 damages, so we're still wading through that, and we're not getting clear answers from FEMA on how they're going to handle those funds that were allocated for damages, whether they'll take us all the way back to pre-2019 flood conditions, or they're only going to take us back to June 23rd. So we're still waiting to hear how that's going to unfurl. We did discuss the election outcomes. FEMA stated that their operations are business as usual until they're told otherwise. On the 18th, we received FEMA's response to our November 4th letter. We talked about that already. On the 4th, that's a mistype, I think, on the date. We also had a bi-weekly call, again with the bi-weekly regarding the surrender of the license. Continue just moving forward with submittal requirements and getting clarification from those regulatory agencies. It'll be part of that surrender process. On November 20th, we submitted a response for FEMA regarding removal of the tree debris at the dam, working through them and providing additional details. So the contractor that's on site, Hosier Worldwide, is going to be removing the remaining tree debris that was accumulated at the dam as part of their work. They've got to get that out by, I think, December 24th in order to meet the FEMA deadlines for funding eligibility. So they'll be working on that in the coming weeks. On November 25th, we had a virtual meeting with John Altendorf from Congressman Finstad's office, following up on a conversation on November 23rd with him, which was, I think, that Saturday. Josh and I had both been conversing with him. The House Appropriations Committee was developing a supplemental disaster request that was due very soon. We would like a direct appropriation for the dam removal, but understand there's some limitations or implications that could go along with that. We don't have a firm cost estimate yet for the work, and the appropriations request would need to be able to deliver a project in fiscal year '25 due to environmental documents and permits. That's not feasible, just with the time frame of the project delivery. They've made a request for the dam, however, it's not a typical line item request, and given the uncertainty of the project totals and challenging delivery, we don't want to put their office in a situation of allocating funds for a project that we would struggle to deliver in the correct fiscal year. Ultimately, it's agreed that it's best to remain in touch, reevaluate our request for fiscal year '26 when we have a better understanding of the total project scope and cost, as well as the FEMA funding amount that may be made available. Public Works staff has spent well over 100 hours assimilating data in response to a very large data request. There are numerous documents that are classified as critical energy infrastructure that were originally provided to us from Eagle Creek Renewable Energy that will require redaction and take a very long time to complete due to the number of documents. I mean, there's well over 100 documents that have to be redacted if they are to be shared. So that's something the staff are, unfortunately, we provided kind of the first big bite of information. We've been providing that, but now, I mean, we're talking months of staff time to provide this information. It's really not going to, unfortunately, provide any productivity. So those things are taking away from our production of our staff, unfortunately. But that concludes my update. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Questions?
Mr. Chair, I might just tack on to what Ryan said here about the data request. I think you'll hear more about this at the AMC conference next week, where this is becoming a bigger issue for local governments, and so I think there will be some conversation about potential legislative requests to help us deal with these large data requests that seem to keep coming.
Thank you. All right. Thank you, Ryan.
Thanks, Ryan.
Thank you, Ryan.
Item number 8 on the agenda, tab number 8, County Attorney. Mr. McDermott, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Commissioners. The report speaks for itself. If you have any questions, please let me know. Just, I always like to pass along some information when I'm here. Technically, we're fully staffed. We'll have an attorney that will be sworn in 2 weeks, roughly 2 weeks from today. But at the same token, we have 4 fairly younger attorneys. This is the first time in my career. Typically, we would send 1 attorney at a time to trial school. We need to send 4. So, and with having so many new people, and it's great to be fully staffed, don't get me wrong, but it kind of puts a strain on other people and trying to catch up on caseload and whatnot, and you see that some of the numbers are down in some area. That's because we have some pending cases that I've been trying to catch up on. So, questions, concerns, comments, please let me know.
Being in public safety as my career is, I understand that when you hire a new employee, it takes quite a long time before you get that person up to par. Not understanding what a county attorney does, I would imagine it's probably the same with you.
We're basically, you know, the one attorney, actually a couple of the attorneys, basically we're double checking their work. So, I mean, we have 4 sets of eyes, or 2 sets of eyes on what normally one attorney would do. So it's doubling up. I've been sitting here going through some matters that one of the newer attorneys, the one that's going to get sworn in, has been working on. You know, they seem to be catching on fairly quickly for the most part and everything. But you're right. It's just like whenever you start somebody new, there's the learning curve, and we're experiencing that big time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Pat. Thanks, Pat.
Item number 9, Administration. Mr. Meyer, please.
Mr. Chair and Commissioners, the first item is the County Board minutes for November 19th.
Move approval?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Discussion. We're ready to vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. Motion carried. The November 19th minutes are approved as printed.
Next are the bills for the 2 weeks indicated.
Move to approve the bills.
Second.
A motion and a second. Discussion. Are we ready to vote? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. Motion carried. The bills are approved.
Mr. Chair and Commissioners, tab number 11 in your packet is the Human Resources Department agenda. I just have informational items for the board today. First, we had a resignation of a library technician, and so we've initiated recruitment to refill that position at the library. Then we had a voluntary demotion from an appraiser to a property and land specialist in our Property Environmental Resources Department. So we've initiated recruitment to refill the appraiser position. Then in the jail, we had a resignation of a correctional officer. So we've initiated recruitment to refill that position. We also had a resignation of a maintenance technician in our Public Works Department and have initiated recruitment to refill that position. Be happy to answer any questions the board might have on any of that activity.
Seeing none, go ahead.
If not, moving to tab 12 then, is a memo regarding tobacco license renewals. We have received applications from 7 firms that wish to renew their tobacco licenses, and so they've submitted the application and the fee, and so we're recommending approval of those 7 licenses.
Okay, you've heard the request. What are your wishes?
I'll move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion? We're ready to vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. Motion carried. Those tobacco licenses are granted.
Tab 13 then is a memo regarding the 2025 intoxicating liquor licenses. Very similar to what you just approved. These, though, are on-sale intoxicating liquor licenses effective for calendar year 2025 for the 7 businesses indicated. Both the county attorney and sheriff have reviewed all the applications, and so we're recommending county board approval.
Move to approve.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Discussion? We're ready to vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. Motion carried. The liquor licenses are approved.
Tab number 14 is a resolution authorizing sponsorship of trails operated by the Blue Earth River Trail or the Snowbirds of Amboy Incorporated. We serve as a fiscal agent for some DNR grant dollars that flow through us to the Snowbirds, and so this is something that has been done for many years, and bringing it forward again for county board authorization.
Move to approve.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Discussion? We're ready to vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. Motion carried. The resolution is approved.
Tab 15 then is a sanitary sewer and water service agreement with the city of Mankato. This is a sewer and water agreement to serve the new public works facility. This is an agreement basically creating a private water and sewer line for the public works facility that would connect to municipal services provided by the city of Mankato. This would be a private dedicated line. No other development could attach to these lines, but it avoids the county then having to do a well and septic system at the new public works facility. And so this is an agreement that the city has already authorized, so we're just bringing it here for county board approval, if you're so inclined today, to allow us to continue to move forward with that plan.
I'll move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion. Are we ready to vote? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. Motion's carried.
Thank you. I believe that's all I have today.
All right. We will move to commissioner reports on committees. Kip, you know who's going first?
Yes, I do.
All right.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I actually have a relatively light report today. After our last meeting, we had our employee appreciation, which that was a very well put on presentation. Nice to see all the people that showed up to get their plaque or their certificate. Kevin and I were at the extension meeting. We had a good meeting, talked a little bit about the discontinuation of the extension educator and going to a 25% master gardener. I think the conversation went very well. I think they're excited about that. And then the committee stayed after, and Josh helped us do evaluations on a couple of the staff people. And then I had several ditch calls and ditch things to deal with after the public hearings we had a couple weeks ago, creating a lot of questions and comments. And then several planning and zoning calls with some stuff going on in the urban fringe overlay of Blue Earth County. That's my report, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Mark?
My report is quite short too, being that I was off for a bit. They had the employee appreciation, recognition, as Skip mentioned, and I came back. That concludes my report.
Thank you. Pat?
I too attended the employee appreciation and the County Road 5 open house, and that is the end of my report.
Thank you. Vance?
I also was at the employee appreciation, and yesterday I had a NACO membership meeting. That's the end of my report.
On November 19th, we had perfect attendance for employee appreciation. On the 21st, I participated in the drainage work group, as well as a EMS listening session in Eagle Lake, and then participated in the extension committee that Kip talked about. November 22nd, we had a County Ditch 59 landowner meeting. That was the one that's kind of tied in with the County 10 project. And then on the 25th, that Rural Minnesota Energy Board meeting and participated in the NACO Rural Policy monthly call. And that concludes my report. That concludes today's agenda, so it will be appropriate for a motion to recess.
So moved.
Second.
And a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, we are in recess.